as we've all learned, I mean, in the kind of absence of an explanation, even though, again, the frustrating thing being that people take what I say and they just immediately ignore it if it's not exactly what they were looking to hear. But, in the absence of kind of communicating and clarifying and whatnot, in that void, in that kind of vacuum that results, people fill that vacuum with the most hilarious, bizarre, shit. And again, 99.99% of the time it's completely wrong. But other people take that and they parrot it, and it becomes kind of accepted as a fact. And I think, again, my lack of communication has kind of allowed that to happen. But, again, my lack of communication comes as a result of this kind of dynamic that exists in the community. And so it's kind of this weird chicken and egg problem. So, I really kind of, I think, was less visible probably after starting my startup in 2010, because I was just really busy. And so that kind of started to, kind of snowballed. I wrote this news post in 2012 where I kind of came back and tried. I hadn't written a news post in 4 years. And, so I had grown immensely between those, that time, 2008 and 2012. And I kind of tried to clear the air and kind of reset. And I think that worked for a while. But again, I kind of got sucked back into work, and, the community changes and kind of rolls over so much over the years. I mean, we've had like these multiple kind of vintages of users, if you think about it, almost like wine over the years. And, each again with their own, ideas about, what the site is when they're coming into it, based on kind of how they're introduced to it, in terms of how their friends, maybe told them about the site or what board they started to use. And that kind of forms their opinion of what Fortune is, what it stands for, what it's all about. And they kind of internalize that. And then anything that is contrary to that view that they hold, again, they really start to kind of act out against it. And so, I think not being as present, and also, again, like the community is just so large. I mean, I used to post, say, every day when I was younger, 10 years ago, and the site only got like a few thousand posts per day. And so almost everybody would see me posting. But now, even if I posted 100 times a day on every, let's just say I posted once a day on every board, or even 10 times a day on every board, the vast majority of people using the site in that day would still not see me post. And, would just think that I was disappeared, because things move so quickly. I guess now with the archives that could kind of change. But then again, that assumes people are actually browsing the archives for Moot posts. So, which I guess some people do on occasion. But so I guess communication is probably the biggest administrative error I've made. Although I do, when I do communicating, and I think over the years I've tried to become more, in terms of how I address the community and how I write, and I've just tried to be very respectful. I think, I used to be, when I was younger, just kind of like a little more, I would have fun. I mean, I enjoyed fucking around just as much as the rest of you. And so over the years, if anything, I think that's I've tempered that and tried to be more kind of respectful, which I think is basically kind of act more professionally, as I, kind of come to, understand how much, fortune means to people. And, even for people that scream at me and hate me, try to treat them as I would anybody else. What are your proudest moments as an admin? I think it's hard to single out any one moment. I think it's, again, just where we stand today is really incredible. Again, everybody who's played any part in that, especially just, members of the community, should be very proud of the fact that they, in some small part, created just this incredible, kind of timeless thing. So, people, again, should be very proud of the fact that they've played a part in that. Do you ever regret anything you've done said to the users of Fortune, like pick related? There's somebody, this is a screenshot of I guess this is part of the rule. We changed the, I think this is a parody of when we changed the over 18 rule to be more specific to know under the age of 13. And that was a legal thing. And that was really just a COPPA compliance thing. And, we quickly reverted it because people, had a fucking conniption and flipped out and thought that we were all of a sudden welcoming underage people. But, I mean, it is what it is. But anything you've ever regretted saying, again, I think it's just more of a general kind of miscommunication thing. Number 870, what do you think about the epic cuckold meme? It's very epic. It's everywhere. Again, it's nice to see that every few months we can choose a new boogeyman or a new insult of the moment. I mean, I went from being a faggot, for the better part of 10 years to a cuck. So So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm pretty amused by it. And again, there's our most recent boogeyman of the moment. I'm curious to see what that'll be in the next few months, because if I've learned anything, it's that it'll change with the winds. Number 888, cool post, bro. Nice trips. Did you like the site more when it was just a niche image board with a small user base from something awful? How do you feel about the growth of the site, and do you think it's changed the overall quality? I mean, I absolutely miss the old days. The site was a lot smaller. It was it was a lot more intimate. Again, people were kind of from the same place. They had the kind of same background. We were all kind of, had this kind of shared history, coming from, again, the progenitor, kind of something awful, Raspberry Hem chat rooms and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I mean, it had a very different, kind of tenor. I mean, the community, the community, just, the conversations. And again, like, people used to type in complete sentences with proper capitalization on /b on, the random board. And I mean, it used to be anime/random from the beginning. And yeah, it's just so different now. But I think again, nostalgia can be a good thing. It can also be a bad thing. And again, the site has just rolled over. I mean, as the vintages of kind of users have kind of, people have kind of aged out and moved on, and new people have come in. Again, people are always complaining about, new fag, old fag, this. But the fact that 4chan, the reason that 4chan still exists today is because it's, that dynamism, that dynamic quality to the community. For every 10 people that leave, 11 people join, or 12 people. And so we've always kind of replenished, and our numbers and usually grown a little bit. And that's kept the community interesting. And again, you see that represented in the culture and the topics. And, I mean, you see, again, like in the obsession with cuckolding. It's hard to imagine people 10 years ago being as obsessed with cuckoldry. But, again, that's what's kept the site strong and kind of kept it relevant and interesting, is that it can, it has that ability to kind of rewrite itself, kind of like any great city. I mean, it's, a city like, say, New York, to kind of constantly reinvent itself. And so I think 4chan is kind of constantly reinventing itself, and in some sense, and that's what's kept me interested for 10 years. So for as much as I kind of think back to the past, I have a friend who reminded me, actually, somebody you all know, Randall Monroe and I, XKCD, were talking about this he spoke at TED last year, and we're just chatting about, I told him, I was like, I really miss, I don't have any internet friends anymore, really. I mean, outside of all of you. I don't really talk to people. I don't use IM anymore. I don't use AIM. I stopped using AIM and GChat. I don't really use IRC anymore. Like, I don't hang out on the internet really as much outside of 4chan. And I just don't have these relationships in my life anymore. And I remember back to being a teen, just how important that was to me, and how amazing that felt. And just, again, just being excited to go on IRC or to IM and make these friends or catch up with these friends. And, now it feels like that's missing from my life. And his kind of response was, again, like that, you just have to appreciate that was a time in your life, and that was, you can find comfort in that, and kind of, that kind of nostalgia or that warmth that you feel for the past. But, it's incorrect to kind of continue to try to return to that. It's, it's unhealthy. It's dangerous if you kind of constantly try to kind of be stuck in that past and kind of, recreate that past, because you can't. And so again, that's, I think 4chan is, I've never tried to kind of, recreate that past. It's, it's always been about just kind of allowing it to kind of, stay amorphous and change, and just kind of keep an eye on it towards the future. So, but I really do miss the old days. But again, I miss it in a healthy way. I don't necessarily want to return to those days, but I have, a certain fondness, for the old days. What is the weirdest thing a fan has ever done to you? Number 897. Nothing, actually. I mean, again, the weirdest thing is that people, when they meet me, are actually very pleasant, and usually are, as you can tell from my journeying on for 2.5 hours now, surprised at how kind of boring and, just dopey I am. They're like, you're just some nerdy 20-something. I thought you would be this kind of maniacal caricature of a human being. And I'm like, nope, just a dude from the internet. Again, I think a lot of people expect me to be a certain way in person, but I'm not, more often than not, at least.